Good evening, friends. Jai Hind. I'm Major Mohammed Ali Shah, and it's my proud privilege and honor to have one of the best geopolitical experts of the country with us, who would be giving his views on Manipur. In fact, what's happening right now in Manipur, as we all know, it's burning, and what the whole cause is, the solutions are. I've been in a lot of panels with Major Sudhakar ji on various issues, and Manipur was something which must have, I wonder, many of you would have heard us perhaps. Sometimes I didn't understand what Sir was trying to convey, perhaps, or sometimes somebody else, some other panelists may not have tried to understand, perhaps. We spoke at length over the phone, and I saw that when the general would explain on the phone, it was so good. I felt the world should hear it, in fact. So here we have Jan Sudhakarji, who has had a vast experience of over 37 years in the Indian Army. He retired as the general officer, of course, as we all know. He has been invited to speak on various forums internationally, globally. I don't know if I'm not exaggerating the figure, over hundreds of countries, in fact. And if I tell you, he has commanded a brigade in the northeast, in Arunachal, a division in Ladakh. He has had experience of Manipur in where the division headquarters were right now, in fact, in Limakong. And he has vast experience of Akrul. And so we are going to speak to him more about what, according to him, could be the situation that came to this extent in Manipur. Sir, Jai Hind, sir, and what an honor, sir, to be in conversation with you, sir.
Good evening, Ali. It's a great delight for me, personally speaking, for having been requested and urged by you time and again, despite my resistance, to come for this 10 minutes or whatever plus show. It's a great privilege. And more than anything else, it is when somebody gets into a mode to listen. Most of us, we listen to others simply to reply. But today, for the first time in my lifetime, I heard somebody, and that somebody is you, who was prepared to listen and understand. I'm grateful to you for this opportunity. Please go ahead, ask me any question you feel like. If your starting question is the question, then I would request you to repeat so that the listeners they grasp it better.
Sir, as you said, I was a good listener, and today I heard you. We spoke on the phone for over an hour, and when you could explain things on the phone so well, and I wanted you to, I requested you, and though I know it was too late at night, but I really insisted. I said, sir, this voice the world must hear. And so basically, what do you think that the situation in the northeast, particularly in Manipur, in fact, came to this extent that Manipur is burning? It hasn't been controlled for over a month and a half now, and both the sides are suffering. So I have a lot of Maite friends, I have a lot of Kuki friends personally who are there right now, present in Manipur, and this situation. Why did it become so bad, and why hasn't it been able to get control so far, sir?
Okay, great. Ali, it's a fantastic question you have asked. All before I answer your question, I would request the brothers and sisters of Manipur and elsewhere to try and understand what I am saying. By no means will a retired general of Indian Army or a soldier would say anything which will be detriment to peace and normalcy. In a crisis, in a trouble-torn place as sensitive as Manipur, I am no exception. I am also a soldier, and more than anything else, my heart bleeds when I hear about my brothers and sisters of Manipur are subjected to mayhem, and the bloodshed is avoidable, in my opinion. How it can be done, we'll come to it later, but why is it happening? Here is a question which nobody, even the experts I have read so much in past couple of days, I don't know. Whatever my penny's worth is, the channel keeps on inviting me. A couple of times I tried to wriggle out. I said, I'm in a job, I have no time, I'm not in touch. Still, they take me. But when I started opening my mouth in the channel, I found that there was a great degree of belligerence in response to what I was saying. Maybe I could not articulate. I'm sorry for that. I'm prepared to learn. My cup of wisdom is empty always and every time. If there is anything found deficient, feel free. Kindly comment. I would like to improve myself, but let me answer the question why Manipur is taking place the way it is unfolded. The starting point or quick points I would make is please do not look at Manipur crisis in isolation. Any crisis taking place anywhere in the world, you join the dots. What's happening in the nation, in the region, and in the continent, in the entire global order. Global order is polarized. It is changing. It is changing for sure. Whether good or bad, it is anybody's guess. We are preceded by certain events, landmark events, namely the pandemic. It's almost 3 years plus now. The extended standoff in our northern border, Pakistan being what it is today, and the Russia Ukraine war, more than 15 months old now, which everyone expected that it would finish off in just about max 10, 15 days or 21 days. So the consequence or the implications of all these put together is actually having a telling impact, particularly on the global south. And if I say it is not an exaggeration, in fact, the leading economies are also experiencing the recession. Talk about US, the economic recession, the unemployment. Talk about Europe. The Germany has gone into officially they have announced they have gone in for a recession now. So, and India is the only bright spot. Just take your focus to India. What is happening around India? Look at what happened a couple of days or maybe a month and a half back in Itanagar. China, which is the largest and our northern adversary, it skipped the G20 meeting. Also, a couple of days later, or preceded by this event, there were 15 names which were acronymed or given names in Tibetan and Chinese in Arunachal Pradesh, basically to claim the South Tibet. Also, it was followed by giving names on the musical instruments on the of the topography under sea in Indian Ocean and in the international water, which has never happened in the history of geopolitics. So, and look at the meeting which took place in Pakistan, the trilateral meeting between China, Afghanistan, and Pakistan, a joint communique, bilateral meeting between Afghanistan and China. And look at the dynamic process, peace having come into the Shia Sunni the conflict between Saudi Arabia and Iran. And look at after 2011, Syria has finally broken the thaw and joined the Arab League. So these are the changes. But what is happening in India? Couple of them I have said. But mind you, at Doklam in 2017, we managed to stalemate Chinese or give them a fitting response, as we have been doing post to 1962 ops. But soon after that, China has started building a road touching a couple of villages through Pagdang and meandering through the mountainscape, heading towards Jamperi. Jamperi Ridge is the dominating ridge, which enables the adversary to overlook the Siliguri corridor or the chicken snake. So why is he so interested about or hell bent upon heading towards Jamperi? Is it merely to have a domination by observation of the chicken snake, or does he have some kind of some other ulterior motive? Now, along with that, if I share that there is a railway line which is being laid or getting extended, and it is going to touch Nathola in no time. There are 8 national highways which are being built or have been constructed across Nepal. Nepal is stretching over almost 1,760 or 70 kilometers east west. They're cutting across the grain of the country and rolling down. And also, they have gone in with a cultural center in Nepal. They've penetrated into Bangladesh. They've built a couple of docks and the ports in Bangladesh, including the one Pyara port, and you have Chittagong. Near the Chittagong port, there is another port which there was a submarine docking for almost months, couple of years back. Not one, not two, three of them, one after another, with kind of a periodicity. And what is happening towards China Myanmar economic corridor? It's been completed. There is a pipeline laid. There is a railway line being built and constructed. There is a national highway which is about to be completed. And this economic corridor is a kind of a success story which is going to give a foothold or kind of a access to the warm water in the Bay of Bengal. So when I say all this, if you join the dots and see what happened to the south, the Kerala, the PFI having been banned. PFI may have been banned, but PFI is appearing with ugly images and figures in different form. The complete Maharashtra state is polarized today. Without taking names of any religion or community, there are people who are fighting against each other. The similar kind of things are taking place towards Kerala, Tamil Nadu, that golden triangle. So when you put the dots there, and a couple of months back, you had that spy ship of China which had come to dock at Hambantota. It was followed by another ship. So what does it mean? There is a strategic rivalry which is expanding by the day in the Indian Ocean region. Pakistan is being helped by China to build its military prowess. Talk about the plan. By 2030, Pakistan would be having 50 vessel navy. The submarines are going to be touching almost a figure of 22. The China, as on today, has got 65 submarines, and some of them are nuclear submarines. So basically, there are five chains or island chains which China is trying to break through or break across. The first chain of island is from Kuril Island, Japan, cutting across the East China Sea, coming towards the South China Sea, Indo-Pacific, towards Brunei, and the second one is coming towards the important port of the USA. They have got a military base, and across that military base, it comes across Philippines. Likewise, the third chain towards Hawaii Island and towards Papua Guinea, and the fourth and fifth, interestingly, are towards the Indian Ocean region. So when you put all this together, you come to realize that there is something bigger which is happening around us, and there is a strategic encirclement in place. Talk about Nepal, talk about Bhutan, talk about, you heard the Prime Minister of Bhutan, what he had to say in a visit to the European country at Belgium in one of the magazines. That China is an indisputable component and part. It is a tripartite problem to decide the point, the Doklam point. So when the border issue is being decided between China and Bhutan, and India has been very conveniently put aside, there is much more that meets the eye. And what is that much more? That much more, ladies and gentlemen, is the intersection of the axis of interest. What is the intersection of axis of interest? The axis of interest, as far as China is concerned, sooner or later, it is getting commercialized, and the CMEC, which is coming from the Yunnan and cutting across Myanmar, coming up to close to the Sittwe port. And as far as India is concerned, our axis of interest is the Act East policy. When these two axes of interest they intersect, there is going to lead to a kind of a conflict of interest. How does that conflict of interest manifest? It will manifest in form of keeping our neighbors unstable. There is a neighbor adjoining Manipur, which is called Myanmar. Post 1st February 2021, it is a military junta which has come into power. Now, is the military junta of Myanmar taking decision on its own? No, it is China's diktats which are being implemented. So, what is happening in Myanmar? There is a military junta. There are groups of militant outfits or the different community groups, 26 groups which are affiliated or linked with Kuki and Chin. They form a group known as the Progressive Defense Force or the Progressive Democratic Force in Myanmar. At many places, you will find it as that it is the defense force in Myanmar. So, what is this PDF linked to Kuki Chin? What difference does it make? Any action taken by the military junta against the PDF, there is going to be a migration. We all are aware that the border between Manipur and Myanmar is roughly around 352. At places, you will read it as 400 kilometers. It's an open border. There is a 16 kilometers on either side of the border. There is a freedom of movement. People from, because of ethnic commonality, People from other side come this side, and from this side go to other side, and there is no check, there is no documentation. So when I talk about migration, people feel very offended, but it is a practical issue. When you talk about narcotics, people take offense to it because narcotics is the source of revenue. To buy illegal weapons from a place called Ruli in Yunnan province along the border between China and Myanmar, northern border of Myanmar. So when you talk about the practicality, and also let me disclose, it has come out in international papers, if I am not wrong, that the Golden Triangle, which essentially connects Myanmar, Thailand, and Laos, has got extended to include Nagaland and Manipur. There has been a bumper crop. It has come out in the UN documents a couple of months back. And this bumper crop has given a huge, it has turned out to be a huge source of income. So when you talk about the Manipur itself per se, there are 36 communities or the groups, tribal groups. This I didn't know. I was working with 34 or 35. Day before yesterday, I heard a panel discussion with a very learned senior general officer of Indian Army who is in a respectable and responsible appointment in the heart of Manipur itself. He is in the advisory capacity. He corrected me. He said, no, there are 36 groups. And more than that, the valley floor insurgents, particularly
Group,
the PLA,
you
like
mean
PLA,
the
there are many
underground groups, sir.
yeah,
Groups, you
yeah.
mean
The
the
PLA,
underground groups.
correct. The People's Liberation Army. I knew a little bit, but he actually educated me. The People's Liberation Army has got linkages with Myanmar. There is a different name, and he was also taking the name of Katseng tribe. So anyway, I'll not go further into details of the tactical details. I would say PLA is affiliated or is linked with the Myanmar government, and PDF in Myanmar is linked with the Kuki and Chin. PLA is it's a byproduct, I would say, for lack of correct expression of Mai Tai, and Kuki Chin or the PDF is a product of the Kuki Chin and multiple kind of 26 of the communities which have got together, the conglomerate of 26 groups. So
So,
what
which was
I
the
mean,
name of this tribe which you had mentioned with K?
Katseng,
Sir, this is
Katseng. This I
just for
learned.
my understanding, sir.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
a,
Yeah.
it's a, it's,
I also had lost track of all this. I was corrected by the senior general officer a day for yesterday. He brought out all these, and there is a different name for Myanmar forces. So
so
that I have lost
This Kachin tribe you are talking about is where
yeah,
in Myanmar,
in Myanmar. In Myanmar.
sir.
So PLA, Maitai PLA, in the valley floor part of the valley floor insurgent group, they are related to Katsing. Katsing is related to Myanmar government or the military junta. So basically, what am I trying to bring out? That the group of these terrorists or the insurgents in Myanmar, comprising of both the Kuki dominated as also Maitai, there is a internal inter rivalry between the groups. They take support of the military junta to strike each other, to hit each other, resulting in some kind of a migration. So basically, coming to the issue of Manipur, the Act East policy is a huge deterrent as far as China is concerned. This is my understanding. I'm giving the larger geopolitical angle. The larger geopolitical angle is that let's not lose sight of the fact that whether it is doable or not by 2049, China wants to achieve the status of rejuvenate the Middle Kingdom, and by 2049 that is the completion of 100 years of PRC. And rejuvenation means it wants to achieve the status of a global power so as to challenge the USA, the unipolar world, the leader, the superpower. And accordingly, it is going as per the timeline, notwithstanding all kinds of challenges it is facing. There is a challenge to its economy, there is a challenge to its population, one child policy, there is a challenge to the technical behemoth, their existence. There is also a challenge to semiconductor industry, electronic industry. Number of 1,600 industries have moved out of China between last year and now, and they are all getting distributed. Majority are going to Vietnam and Indonesia. Some of them have started coming to India as the rules, the ease of making business is improving in India. So basically, if the Act East policy of India becomes successful, then India will have a land connectivity to Thailand and right up to the Southeast Asian countries. As on today, what will happen tomorrow, nobody can say. As on today, China has managed to expand its footprint in Southeast Asian nations and particularly Southeast Asian nations, and it does not want forces like India to come into Southeast Asian nations because it will be a very effective counterbalance to China, and China will not be able to fulfill its aim of rejuvenating the Middle Kingdom. So, therefore, what I personally feel, one of the aims is denying the opportunity of India by creating trouble in Manipur to put our Act East policy in place. One. Number two, there are major fault lines. There are socio-economic fault line. Which country of our stature will not have fault line? You have so many. I was counting 722 languages, out of which 20 plus 2 are scheduled languages. I was shocked to see a social media tile floating around. It says India has got 1,886 languages. I was surprised. You have how many? 5,000 castes, 25,000 subcastes. You have five main castes in the country. You have nine religions. Out of nine religions, four religions have originated in India. So likewise, and if you go into the ethnicity, 2,600 ethnic tribes they exist in India. So likewise, there are 28 states, 8 union territories. Some more are going to be added very soon. So with such kind of diversity, there are there are live socio-economic fault line. So while the normalcy would have been existing for past 7, 8, 9 years or so in the Manipur Valley or Manipur per se, but the socio-economic fault lines are so rife that it requires a very minor spark to ignite. And perhaps China, to me, it appears, people may or may not accept that there is a big game which is undergoing. People who are interested, particularly the research scholars, I would recommend that you read a book called Great Game East: India, China, and Struggle for Asia's Most Volatile Frontier. The author is Mr. Lintner. Bertil Lintner is a British author. This book examines everything. This is based on the concept of great game. In those days, the terminology used to be used very frequently, particularly for the great game between USSR and the British India Empire in the Central Asian Republic. So, same great game has been acronymed here. There is a great game going on in the East. If I share something, you will be horrified. That the ultimate plan of China is to compel Myanmar to change its border westwards. The existing border is passing between India and Myanmar. There is a land grabbing which is taking place gradually. People may not realize this. There are bigger game plans. Yes, obviously, if you pick up a Kuki tribe leader or an activist of Maitai, they will only speak about their inside the well. For them, the world is actually confined to that round, shaped well, blind well, I would say. They will not be able to touch or join the dots which are happening around them. So China is coming in a big way. There are America has realized that post disintegration of Russia or the USSR in 1991, they had vacated the posts or the bases in the East Asia, in the Southeast Asia, in the ASEAN nations. Today they realize the same country to which they had outsourced and made it a factory or manufacturing base of the world has started challenging the existence of USA as a superpower. So they have vacated the West Asia part, and now they have shifted the pivot of Asia to Indo-Pacific. I only hope some sense prevails, but unfortunately, again, they have got somehow distracted and gone towards the Central Europe. That is why that battle is going on since last year, February. What will happen is anybody's guess. So, what it brings me to is that Manipur itself has got 36 tribes or 36 groups, tribal groups. Things were not so easy with very, very, I would say, deft diplomacy, sustained negotiation. There are 15 talks with NSC and IM. Even now also talks are going on. 15 talks have already passed through. So many talks are in progress already. People had been brought to some kind of a ceasefire. There was a SOO's suspension of the
Essential
operational
operations.
operations. in 2008, if I
But just
remember
a
the
minute,
year.
I'd like to interrupt you slightly. I'll just take
Yeah.
you back slightly about a couple of minutes back. I like to hear and understand, and then only I ask. So, when you mentioned about China wanting to expand its borders towards the west, you meant, for example, China had a secret deal with Solomon Islands where they would be allowed to deploy their forces in Solomon Islands where they can keep a closer eye towards Australia. So that was a secret deal which was found out and it was revealed later on. So is that what you were trying to say? So that China can come more towards west if you see geographically. Australia would be towards the east, all right, but then globally it will be towards the west. Is that what you were trying to say, sir?
No, no, Ali. Ali, I'm talking about the border between Myanmar and India. It passes over a ridge line, and I'm forgetting the name. When I was a youngster, I have walked almost. You also have been in the northeast so much. Uh, Patkai range, Patkai range. Yes, I remember. Patkai range is the range which divides majorly the border, 1642 kilometers, odd kilometers border between the Myanmar and India. This border, in some form or the other, there is a gradual land grabbing which is being, the Myanmaris are being compelled. This, I don't want to actually articulate these things, it will unnecessarily get sensitized. Some people have started pushing the border towards our side in Manipur, towards Nagaland. These things are not coming to light. So, what I'm trying to highlight is I think the time has come. We, India as a nation, it has to revisit the border management between India and Myanmar. We may have to go in for revision of the boundaries. There are boundary pillars existing, but there are no forces. Anything which is not guarded cannot be actually defended adequately. There is a freedom of movement, there is an open border. So, besides this, when I say about the extension of the golden triangle, what does it mean? In past 5 years, if you carry out a statistical study, the acreage, or let's say, let's talk in terms of the volume of money. Day before yesterday, when I was in the panel discussion, that learned person, senior officer, he actually surprised us by saying almost equivalent from 40,600 crores worth of heroin is being produced. Heroin, opium, narcotics, different type, artificial, natural. So 40,600 to 60,000 crores is the value of the narcotics which is being produced in this particular region. So that money, as per a lot of eminent scholars and research personalities, they said this money is the readily available money, and more than that, the this narcotic is being penetrated, being supplied into India. Used to be a transit country earlier. As far as the Golden Crescent was concerned, the Golden Crescent I'm talking of is Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Iran. So this particular Golden Crescent is, even today, it produces high grade quality of the narcotics, all kinds. So the value which it fetches is, they say, it is 4 to 5 times more than the value which the narcotics or all this contraband, the opium which is produced here towards the Golden Triangle. So it is to pass through three different axes. One is to be the Baltic. Um, Another one is to be through Central Asian Republic. One is the Balkan, the second is the Central Asian Republic, the third one is to be the South Asia, that is India. The United Nations or the international bodies against operating against the narcotics, they have managed to dominate and deny these two axes, Balkan and the Central Asian Republic. As a result, the only open access used to be through India. Now, instead of continuing to become a transit nation, India, you'll be surprised to hear that there, in past 5 to 10 years time, the consumption of heroin or narcotics of different makes, there are different grades, nomenclature, you are intelligent, aware of all this, has gone up substantially in India. So this Golden Triangle, the produce of Golden Triangle, is also being fed in and pumped into India. So it is affecting the population. So there is a bigger game plan. If you read this particular book, it throws up many issues. One of the issues is that perhaps the strategic location of the Northeast is under acute danger. Why? The chicken snake or the Siliguri corridor, it is going to be dominated. The narrowest point of Siliguri corridor is 17 kilometers. At places you will find at 21 kilometers. And the length of the Siliguri corridor is 200 to 260 kilometers. China is poised in such a manner that it will be able to choke or block us the complete main lines or the arteries which are passing through the Siliguri corridor at any time. India is taking steps. There is nothing alarming. We have negotiated with the Bangladesh. We have been able to reach out to Mizoram, Tripura through Bangladesh, through Chittagong Hill Tract. Also, there is the pre-independent the connectivities have been activated to Chittagong port. A lot of things are happening. I am not saying situation is alarming. I am trying to answer your very important question: why Manipur in present form? My counter question is: if same Manipur had witnessed normalcy or relatively lesser violent activities for 8 to 9 years preceding the 3rd of May 2023. So, what happened all of a sudden, abruptly? Was it the High Court order? I was reading an article day before yesterday by a JNU professor, Professor Bhagat. To me, it did not appear. There was no linkages. Was it the that protest march undertaken by the indigenous tribal students union? Again, he has come to a conclusion that he has been able to dissect thoroughly and there are no linkages. Perhaps after having gone through, carried out the environment scan in a systematic manner with the limited space in the Times of India editorial, there is one thing which is turning out. Perhaps the government of Manipur, having had taken a serious drive against the poppy cultivation which was taking place in the hill segment, was a kind of a very serious trigger. And this serious trigger, it was preceded by a red line which had been announced by NSCN that don't dare do anything to our tribal people in Manipur before the peace comes in some form or tangible peace. Perhaps that red line having been indicated by the NSCN, followed by the drive, whatever the intention may have been, no matter how noble it would have been, and the High Court order, all put together, there is a huge conglomerate of activities. Complexity is writ large. It is very difficult to pinpoint that because of this tribe, this thing happened. When you talk about the cookies, you find Meiteis are at fault. When you talk about the Meiteis, you find the cookies are rebelling. And worst of it is that out of these armories, which are containing almost a large number of weapons, how can the armories be looted? These are the moot questions which are coming up. 4,500 weapons official record has come out. I can't believe it. In some place today morning, I saw they have not been looted. They have been distributed one by one. In addition to that, there are state-of-the-art weapons and equipments which are being used inside Manipur Valley. The drones are being used. The rocket launchers are being used. There are sniper rifles which we never heard of. You've been there in the counter-insurgency operation. At least during my time, I never heard of sniper rifles being used. There are AK-47s. There are M16. Yes, M16 used to be employed by these people in those days also. So where are they coming from? With the markings of made in China. So when you share these kind of realistic inputs on a geostrategic environmental scan, many of the people, the tribal people, obviously they have to be emotional. I have no intentions of hurting them at all. And I'm sorry if I'm doing it. I seek forgiveness, but I'm trying to share the reality in the environment. Perhaps the case for Manipur is all set. Leaves are dry. Somebody has to lit the matches and throw the matchstick. It's going to catch like wildfire. So Manipur is one angle. There is another angle towards Bangladesh. There are Chin tribe who have settled in substantial number towards the Chittagong Hill Tract. There are Rohingyas that side. You turn your head towards Nagaland, there equally the situation is totally polarized. When the peace talk is being spoken about, such kind of small incident, who has triggered? What happened first? It's very, very difficult to pinpoint as of now. Let's see, the time will say. Let's see, the judicial inquiry may be able to pinpoint. Have any people in the hierarchy been negligent in their duties? If so, let them be identified, taken to task. So this is one part I have tried my best to answer as to why Manipur, given you the complete geopolitical angle, given you the angle of the localized situation, given you to some degree the regional perspective, the Northeast may get totally cut off. While India is a member of Quad, India is leaning towards USA. Indo-Pacific has turned out to be the pivot of Asia. China is the strategic enemy of everyone except for minor countries who are its allies. Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia. So India is the only stumbling block which is in geographic proximity and contiguous to China, which can actually check and contain China's growth as a global power. So therefore, India becomes China's number one or at least one enemy. Number one enemy is the USA, and USA's number one enemy is China. So if you carry out an environmental scan, statistically speaking, China being the number one enemy, I think we should look at everything. Even if there is no angle of China, you should always look at the issue as to China could be playing merry hell with us, whether it is hacking off the northern grid or blackout of Mumbai or hacking off the Indigo website 1 or 2 years back or penetrating or hacking off the defense accounts of the defense officers in CDO Pune. There are many more things. There are petroleum rigs which have been hacked by the Chinese cyber attack. Last year, in the year 2022, by a research study, it has come out that India is the country which was subjected to maximum number of cyber attacks. So, as we are growing digitally and electronically, the threat is also mounting. China has gone in for substantial cyber, electromagnetic, and the space capability. There is a drone war. Pakistan has left India behind by 10 to 15 years as far as the drone technology is concerned. This may not be known to many of us. Yes, predators coming, hopefully, this visit of Honorable Prime Minister to USA is definitely going to give us a competitive edge. We'll be able to look beyond and overtake or at least match with the Pakistan's capability. China is way ahead. So these are the issues. Ali, I have tried to give a comprehensive picture. Hope it doesn't hurt the feelings. I know I'll not be able to respond to your query in a tactical figure. My knowledge about the tribal communities, the way you rattle out, I can't do it. I've given a strategic and a geopolitical angle. There is much more than what meets the eye. Perhaps there are bigger plans which are taking place. We should be wary of it. We should be careful. We must take care of the Siliguri corridor, open up alternate means of communication to connect with our eastern, our seven sisters or the eight sisters of Northeast India. Back to you, Ali.
Wow, so that was quite in depth and very in depth, in fact, very well read, very well researched, very well strategized, analyzed, and you really gave a different perspective of a bird's eye view, something which I had not even thought of earlier. In fact, I've heard you giving this explanation on television debates, and I used to often wonder, I used to think that no, this is not the reality. I mean, what you have been, and I've spoken to you on the phone as well. I expressed my disagreement to you as well. And I thought, no, I couldn't. And maybe somewhere, I don't know, I, being a junior officer, was mistaking to understand what you were perhaps trying to convey. In fact, so maybe I'm too junior in service to actually think of that high level, that strategic level that you think of, sir. So, what do you think could be the solution to Manipur? How could peace be established there? Because over a month and a half, and so far, no sign of peace at all.
Ali, you were brilliant. Your question is super brilliant. That is what every Indian should actually ask. And more often than not, in every panel discussion, we start the discussion from one point and land up elsewhere without actually finding some solution for peace. I'll come straight to the answer. What comes to my mind? Being a military man, the military science always teaches us that wherever there is a trouble torn area, as far as possible, you isolate the area, firstly. Isolation has to be in form of digital isolation, internet, your Paytm, other things, your social media, etc., etc. Isolation also has to be in terms of the physical isolation. Physical isolation is by domination, by the military force, by the combing operation. When you talk about the combing operation, first and foremost thing that we must start with is the unity of command. You are a very profound and outstanding officer. You've done an excellent job in your tenure, and you have seen very big challenges. You yourself, you are narrating, you're caught as a PW. Very interesting thing that you shared with me. So all I would say is unity of command. Unless there is a one man authority on the top, there will be no command, control, coordination, and there will be no cooperation. Each one left hand will be going in the left direction, right in the other direction. So, therefore, unitary command or unitary leadership, which is called a unity of command, or in other words, these days we have started using the terminology unified headquarters. Yes, it has been announced, but has it come to some kind of a shape? If it is not, Honorable Home Minister, he is a respected, credible, he is known for his thoughts and wisdom. Whatever steps he has recommended, we need to actually implement in letter and spirit. So the unified headquarters has to come into being at the earliest if it has not started. All the forces, there are multiple components. You have India Reserve Battalion, you have Manipur Rifles, you have Assam Rifle, you have BSF, you have CRPF, you have Army. Yes, I must highlight one angle which we are hesitant to share or discuss maybe in the open domain. China is playing a tactics. Why am I saying that it is China's hand is there? The northern border has become so formidable from India's side that China dare not think of doing anything against India. Simply cannot dream of doing anything. It has become virtually formidable. Our response matrix has become. See what happened in Yangtze. You must have been to Yangtze. I have been to Yangtze. Yangtze, there is no place for the troops to actually have a staging camp. Staging camps have been built, the troops have been staged forward, where you used to have one person earlier during my time in 2011. There is a full platoon there. In no time, you will be able to muster good about 30 odd people with extended hands. You are covering more than 200 meters. That is the methodology of warfare on the mountain tops. You don't fire bullets there. It is amassing of troops at the shortest possible time. So when I talk about this, that the northern border having become formidable, it is the ugly or nefarious design of China to create a situation like this so that the army, which was earlier deployed in Manipur Valley, gets back or redeploy them back in Manipur. Weaken the extended. This is my analysis. I may be wrong. I have not read it anywhere. But since I have served all along, like you rightly say, I'm a mountain goat along the northern border. This is my analysis. It is trying to weaken us along the northern border, compel us to withdraw the troops which have actually moved out from Manipur Valley. That doesn't mean that Manipur Valley is devoid of any army component. Army is there, but in a reduced strength. So when you make a comparative study with full strength that army is supposed to be occupying and combine them with all other multiple resources, it becomes a formidable place. Domination is much more effective. And when I talk about the combing operation, it cannot be jungle bashing. It has to be based on surgical or specific information, human int, technical int. You have surveillance methodologies. Carry out the satellite imageries, analysis, find out the camps, see where all the weapon systems are hidden. Go in for surgical operations with minimal collateral damage, and you capture this until unless you disarm the terrorists, disarm the insurgents, or disarm the people, or in simplest expression, you recover these 4,500 weapons. And there is more to it. Don't be alarmed. Total count of weapon systems having heard this senior responsible appointment in the heart of Manipur is roughly around 8,500. In Kashmir Valley, you've been in Kashmir Valley yourself, motley 200 weapon systems is kept the whole Indian army in a spin for such an extended period. 8,500, they're moving freely. They're free flow of weapons in Nagaland and Manipur. So, therefore, when I talk about the geostrategic importance and the geopolitics and the adjoining neighborhood, which is a turbulent state today, and the narcotics or the Golden Triangle, which is getting extended, the illegal weapon systems which are coming from Ruli at a reduced cost, and revenue is being generated from the narcotics, well, then the situation is definitely, it calls for some kind of a drastic measure and a step to be taken. It is not as on today, you do not have any reliable information coming out. I have read some articles, some senior general has gone on ground and said the disinformation campaign is much more than what we have seen or heard or read about what was happening in Ukraine amongst the tribes. So the information is being built up and selectively being released to the environment so as to pitch one tribe against the other in their inter group rivalry. So these are the things which are happening. We have to take very drastic measures and launch effective domination and combing operation with an aim to disarm the people or at least recover these weapons of 8,500. It's not going to be easy task to actually fulfill in near say 3 months or 6 months. It may take another year or two. Second thing, while these things are happening, the administrative measures have to be in place. Administrative measure means the machinery which is existing today, the civil administration machinery, has to be responsive, has to be accountable, has to be transparent. The needs of the people have to be identified correctly. Third thing, the displaced people, as on today, the rough count was 58,000 who have been displaced. They're in different camps. Some of them are in no camp. So all these
Very
people have to be shifted to some safe, secure settlement areas. So those settlement areas, they must be protected, they must be guarded, they must be given livelihood requirement, the food, you have Maslow's theory must be fulfilled, and the supply chain management must be protected. It has to be sustainable. So therefore, what I am coming to is that is not the end. The end, actually, until unless when you say about isolating the area of operation, the area of operation has to be isolated in layers. Which are these layers? Churachandpur, you've been there yourself. It is hugging the border with Myanmar. There are cookies who have come and settled there. There are cookies who have gone to the other hill segment. The border has to be sealed. The new thoughts for peace to achieve peace, it's a very hard kind of an option to achieve something hard as peace under the current circumstances in Manipur. You have to be prepared for hard course of action. Sealing the border, maybe temporarily, has to be done unless you stop the migration of the people, because every complaint by any community must be noted, must be taken cognizance of, and we must respond as to how best we can redress or address their anomalies or the grievances, whether it is Maitai, whether it is cookies. But it is very important to keep both the groups, the warring factions or the rivaling parties, separate camps under separate kinds of administration. Next point I wish to share with you is that media plays a very important role. In media, like you rightly said, sir, you are unable to express yet. I do admit I have been actually into geopolitics. When you expect me to cover the tactics, I can't express in 2 minutes. Before I open my mouth, the anchor has started interjecting. I have to tell her or him, you have asked me a question, allow me to answer to the best of my ability. So, in a case like this, it will happen. Any plan that you make, it will have pitfalls. There will be contingencies. There will be still be firing. There will be rivalry faction, fighting against each other. You have to actually pump in lots of modern technology for surveillance and keeping people under watch and the activities. Most important is the future of the children of both the Kukis, the Maitai, and the other tribes. There are other, it is not intertribal. That Professor Bhagat has beautifully actually analyzed in that article. He has discounted all kinds of intertribal faction or inter-community faction. He said there is no religious angle. It is not related to High Court order. It is not related. It's a beautiful read. You'll find it very interesting. He knows you, in fact. He was talking in glorious terms about you, unless he's meaning somebody else. So what it brings me to is, sealing of border is very important. There are
Sir,
borders.
glorious terms bole to must be somebody else. We are not that glorious. But I know we're
you,
talking about.
You are a celebrity, Ali.
No,
You
no.
are a celebrity. So, and the fact of the matter remains that the Manipur has got border with Nagaland. It has got border with Mizoram. Mizoram, incidentally, this state has got on internet you find 552 kilometers of border, but actually it is pretty long. It's around 600 kilometers. It has got border with other states, uh, Assam, and likewise, and it has got border with Myanmar. So when I say about sealing a border, you may be thinking in terms of 352 kilometers of border between Manipur and Myanmar. No, I'm talking about the entire stretch of 1642 kilometers or whatever the length of the border is. Northeast. And domination or sealing of border can be done by different means. You don't have to put one soldier at every yard. It can be done by surveillance, employment of the surveillance equipments, by a integrated grid system, counter infiltration grid. At least we have to think in terms of some innovative method. Unless you do this, it will be very difficult to bring in peace. And more than that, I had also suggested in one of the channels, until the violence level dips down or declines to acceptable level, it's no point going in for any kind of investigation. I'm sure, being a military leader yourself, you will agree that when you carry out uh, effective investigation or meaningful substantive investigation, you have to bring witnesses. It has happened during my time as a youngster in Nagaland. When you are bringing witnesses to the place of investigation, en route they have been knocked off. So until unless you are able to provide secure and safe protection to the witnesses or conduct of the investigation, successful conduct of the investigation, there is no harm. It is prudent to stay on. Hold yourself for some time. And last but not the least, talking about the peace committee. Peace committee, you yourself, I heard you in one of the channels saying that the political leadership, Ali, whether I'm sure you will understand and agree, no matter what description and narrative we give, the whole problem is revolving around politics. We may not agree, we are military people, we are political. My little understanding of study of 1 month, I have been picking up anything and everything on Manipur. I think if the political leadership are serious, they can bring down this particular violent activities or inter-community rivalry to a peaceful status in just about 72 hours, if they are serious about it. To me, it appears that the dispensation in position today for the governance is couldn't care less, is not bothered at all. Maybe they have not identified the factors. Some one of the colleagues or senior colleague sent a message to me. What you are talking in the media is actually they are not problems; they are catalyst. I say the core problem could be something, but the catalyst which are surrounding the ecosystem of the main problem, unless you address them as one of the problems, they will crop up and become something like it's like an amoeba, and it will grow like a poison. So therefore, we have to take a consolidated, comprehensive step as far as the combing operation is concerned. Administrative measures have to be absolutely effective, ensuring transparency and accountability, and the safety of the people who have been displaced. They have to be put into different kinds of groups and settlements, protected. Supply chain has to be sustainable. The media has to play a very mature role. We have to keep the area under surveillance, and peacekeeping committee. It's no point having 50 people, to my mind. I may be wrong. You have a nucleus component. This nucleus component could have subsidiary components. If required, you get them in. If not, get meaningful, substantive people who may not be accepted by the environment, because over here there are two things. One is the national interest, and another is the tribal interest. Tribal interest need not be the national interest, and national interest need not be the tribal interest. So, what is supreme? Supreme is national interest. People are demanding that Manipur should be divided. Is that in favor of national interest? I'm saying no. So, to achieve the higher objective of national interest, we have to The subgroups and the sub-communities have to compromise in their expectation. There has to be a feeling of nationalism. If the same Manipur could employ in 1904 and 1936, the women groups are very effective in Manipur. You've been there, they take you as your child. You've been born and brought up there, so you would agree with me. The women groups, whether it is Mai Tai group, whether it is Cookies group, whether it is Manipur women group, or any other, there are different names for different kinds of group. At least my
Like
reading
Myra
is
Papa is for Maitis, they are different groups.
correct.
You're right,
And
sir.
they are not only heard, they are respected. They are respected like goddesses. That is a group which can actually bring about peace. There is another group actually comes to my mind. There are far and few veterans. The army veterans are respected a lot in Manipur. They can play a very, very united role to bring the people together, sensitize them, make some sense prevail. There is some external fact. Anything that happens, Ali, in India today, this is 2023. Elections are around the corner in 2024. India is a rising power. The credibility factor is rising like anything. Narendra Modi is the sought after most popular leader in the world. Whether you talk about George Soros or you talk about that Hindenburg, uh, what is that? What selling? Short selling of the stocks and shares, or you talk about the farmers' agitation, talk about anything else, everything. Talk about the BBC documentary. Now another one documentary is floating around, Al Jazeera documentary. Anything which is happening in India or something is happening in Canada, the Sikh for justice or something, some group, Khalistan group is propping up everywhere, whether it is Australia or Canada or any place. There is a global conspiracy to unsettle India, to make sure that there is a change of regime in the next election. They do not like popularity of Narendra Modi or his government. So India, on one hand, started galloping. This is the brightest spot that anyone, like I was in California and I came across, I read a lot of articles there. A lot of CEOs, McKinsey CEO, if I remember correctly, he was giving a talk. And in that talk, the sum and substance towards the end, he said, Asia, this is not the Asia century, nor is it India's decade. He said, it is India's century. This is the forecast, kind of forecast. It is not only one CEO who was stating. The host of CEOs in the entire Western world, they have collectively also given this statement that this is the India century. So consistently, you will come across forces inimical to India's interest. These are global conspiracy in full swing. Therefore, don't misunderstand me, brothers and sisters of Manipur. I would urge each and every one of you, try to see the larger picture which is taking place, whether it is towards the backyard of India or to the northern border or to the western border or to the eastern border. We are surrounded. There is a strategic encirclement. If we do not come together, all of us collectively, put our best foot forward, understand each other, let's listen to understand, not to reply back. Our biggest problem today is more often than not, most of us are listening to each other simply to reply back. Try and understand there is a perspective. No true Indian, no true soldier will ever say anything or do anything which will be detrimental to the national interest. That's all I have. I hope I've been able to answer your question, Ali.
Yes, sir, absolutely, absolutely, very clearly. Thank you so much, sir, for your time, and it's been such a pleasure speaking to you. And sir, before we conclude, I would like to know a bit about where you had got your VSM, sir. That's a Vision Seva Medal. That's a very, very prestigious honor and award that which you as a sir.
This is GOC. I was 3 Div. I was commanding the Eastern Ladakh. That is the place I got VS.
Sir, that's
And
amazing, sir.
thank you so much, Ali. It's been very thoughtful of you. And I don't know people who listen to this or not. If they listen, if it is any penny's worth to inspire, if not all the Indians, if some Indians, at least if one person can listen to this and derive some inspiration, I think I would have all the reasons to thank you. It is on your insistence I have come onto your YouTube channel. I don't think I would have come in the normal course. Thank you so much. I hope I have not disappointed you at a short notice without any preparation off the cuff. What has come to my mind, I have spoken my heart out. Sorry for having taken time beyond 10 minutes, but I hope it has been substantive and meaningful to you, brother.
Of course, not at all, sir. In fact, you are a bank of knowledge and about geopolitics, world affairs. We've been on so many discussions on Russia, Ukraine, India, China. So many. I mean, so many. When Sri Lanka crisis happened, and your analysis over there was really. I mean, because you are see, there'll be a difference between your analysis as a general साहब and my analysis as a major साहब. फर्क हो गया तो यहाँ पे सीखने को बहुत मिलता है मेरे को आपसे. I get to learn so much, sir. Sir, thank you very much, sir. आपके साथ गुफ्तगू में 1 घंटा कैसे बीत गया मालूम नहीं वाकई में didn't come to know.
Oh my God. It's one. Yeah, you're right. Thank you, Ali.
Sir,
Thank you so much.
sir,
And
thank you very much, sir. Truly grateful to you, sir, for taking your time.
we are proud
Jai
of
Hind,
you.
sir.
You're doing a great job and keep it up. Jai Hind, Jai Hind to you.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
so
Jai Hind, sir.
much.